When you picture the end of a big-time drug lord, you probably think of movies, right? Some epic final standoff, guns blazing. But the reality? Well, the reality is often way stranger, sometimes more brutal, and honestly, sometimes just plain bizarre. Today, we're going to look at how some of the most powerful criminals in history actually met their end.
All right, so let me ask you something. Picture a guy who commands a whole fleet of jets just to move cocaine. A man so powerful he's worth an estimated $25 billion. How do you think a guy like that goes down? A huge raid on his palace? An ambush by a rival?
You're probably imagining something spectacular, something really violent. But for the man we're talking about, Amado Carrillo Fuentes, that is not at all how his story ended. Nope. The head of the Juarez cartel, one of the most powerful traffickers on the entire planet, died in a hospital bed. That's right, they called him the Lord of the Skies because of his massive fleet of planes. Fuentes was on the run from everyone, Mexican authorities, US authorities, you name it. So he figured, hey, a new face, a new body, that'll buy me some time. But instead, a bad reaction to some medication or maybe a faulty respirator, well, that's what ended his reign. But here's the really crazy part. Months later, the two surgeons who did the operation, they were found murdered, their bodies stuffed into oil drums. It was a grim message that even in death, the cartel's reach was long.
So while some of these endings are just weirdly ordinary, others are exactly what you'd expect. The full, crushing power of the government coming down on one single person. This is our first major pattern.
A perfect example is Antonio Cardenas Guillen, better known as Tony Tormenta. He was running the Gulf Cartel, and by 2010, the Mexican government had had enough. They made him a top priority. And they weren't just sending in a small team. Oh no, they were sending an army. Seriously, just look at this number. 660. That is how many Mexican Marines they sent into his home city of Matamoros on one day in November 2010. And their only job? To take him down. And this just shows you the sheer scale of it all. The Marines threw up roadblocks everywhere. They cut the cell service, they cut the power, and what came next was pretty much a full-blown urban war. Cartel gunmen were hijacking buses to block the military, snipers were firing from rooftops, and over 300 grenades went off across the city. After a 4-hour gunfight, the Marines finally cornered Tony Tormenta and took him out. And believe me, this was not a one-time thing. This pattern of overwhelming force is pretty common. When they went after Arturo Beltran Leyva, the boss of bosses, they sent 200 Marines plus tanks and helicopters. For Pablo Escobar, Colombian Special Forces used American tracking tech to hunt him down. So the point is clear. When a kingpin gets big enough, the state can bring a terrifying amount of power down on them.
But here's the thing. Sometimes the deadliest threat isn't a military force kicking down your door. Sometimes it's the person standing right next to you.
Okay, so picture this scene. It's the end of Pacho Hera, one of the 4 leaders of the incredibly powerful Cali cartel. He's in prison, just playing a game of soccer. An associate, a guy he's known for years, walks right onto the field. Harris stops the game, goes over to greet him, they embrace, they hug, and in that instant, a moment of trust, of familiarity, the associate pulled a pistol. It's the ultimate betrayal, not from some enemy on a battlefield, but from a supposed friend in what should have been a safe place. And this wasn't just a quick hit, it was brutal, personal, 7 shots to the head. Now, they caught the triggerman, but everyone believes the order came from the rival Norte del Valle cartel. It's a chilling reminder that in this world, today's friend can easily be tomorrow's assassin. So we've seen the state, and we've seen rivals. But this third category, man, this is where things get really unsettling. This is when death comes from just sheer chance, or deep irony, or circumstances so strange they honestly feel like they're out of a movie. Meet Ramon Arellano Felix. This guy was a monster, known for ordering massacres, and he was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. So how did he die? He was shot and killed by a local cop during a routine traffic stop. Now, some people think it wasn't random at all, that it was actually a cleverly disguised ambush set up by his arch-rival El Chapo. But either way, one of Mexico's most feared men went down in the most mundane way possible.
And if you think that's strange, check out what happened to his brother, Francisco Rafael. Years after he got out of prison, supposedly retired from the game, he's celebrating his 64th birthday at a party. A guy dressed as a clown just walks right up to him, pulls out a pistol, and shoots him dead. The killer got away. The motive? Never confirmed. A completely surreal end.
And then there's the almost brutal irony in the death of Griselda Blanco, the godmother of cocaine. She was a pioneer of the Miami drug wars, and she's actually credited with making the motorcycle drive-by shooting a popular tactic. Well, in 2012, at 69 years old, long retired, she's leaving a butcher shop in Medellin when a man on a motorcycle pulls up and shoots her twice in the head. She died by the very method she helped create. So, after all of these dramatic, violent, and just plain weird endings, you gotta ask, what's the point? Does killing the leader actually stop the organization? Well, the evidence seems to suggest something else entirely.
Let's go back to Tony Tormenta for a second, the guy they sent the army after. Right after that huge military operation killed him, what do you think happened? Well, his biggest rivals, Los Zetas, didn't just celebrate quietly. They hung banners all over the city, mocking the fallen Gulf Cartel and openly inviting his soldiers to come work for them. They didn't see his death as the end of a war. They saw it as a business opportunity.
And this is a textbook example of what experts call the power vacuum effect. It's a really simple but brutal cycle. You take out the leader at the top, that creates an opening, and all of his ambitious lieutenants and outside rivals immediately start a bloody war to grab control of the territory, the network, and all that money. And the result is often more violence, not less.
So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how they go. On an operating table, in a military raid, or at the hands of a killer clown. The death of a kingpin is almost never an ending. It's just a job opening.
And that leaves us with one big, nagging question. In this war on drugs, are these high-profile takedowns actually victories? Or are we just fighting some kind of mythical hydra, where every single time one head gets cut off, another one, maybe even a more violent one, simply grows in its place?